Greetings, everybody, for Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggin, and man, I've got a lot of cool stuff to talk to you about tonight. We're going to be talking about Amtrak. We're going to talk about VIA. We're going to be talking about P40 DCs and P42 DCs. And ironically enough, I just got back from a trip and P42 is the lead unit. And so it's a great time to be talking about these new Genesis releases. But before we get started, let's do what we always do. Let's see who's joining us out there in the virtual train world. Let's see, we've got Ronald, Chessie, J. Cure, Delta 9, Rusty, KCG Rail Gilbert, and Charles, Eric, Donnie, Ron, Bradley, HO Scale Railfan, Cornell Custom Trains, Ron, Rick, George, Kyle, Ozzy, Daniel, Kalen, Sid, and more. I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. It's a great night here. The weather's finally turned a little bit warmer, and I'm happy about that. It means railfan season is just coming into the best time of the year. Not too hot, not too cold. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the P42s, and you're going to want to do some railfanning. Check out one of the ones that we're offering trackside. We've worked very closely with not only Amtrak, but Operation Lifesaver. And you probably know which unit I'm talking about. We'll go into detail with it in a little bit. But let's do one more round of shout outs, and then we will get started. So we've got Donald, Jesse, Apache 2018, BNSF 9708, Richard, Matt's Conrail Chicago Mainline, HO Scale Railfan, Approach Diverging 013, Late Night Model Railroad, Brad, Anthony, and Abel coming in from Austin, Joseph saying good evening, and Jamie. So thank you for all joining me tonight. Great night planned, especially if you're into passenger rail. So let's do what we always do. Let's go ahead and assume a comfortable position in a workshop chair, put down the hobby knife, and grab the beverage of your choice. Sit back and relax, because we're going to talk Genesis P42s tonight and P40s. So let's get started. So a quick rundown on these. Now, we've offered these before, and we just did a release back last summer, about August, on the P42s, and we're going to be doing the 50th anniversary ones, and those were highly anticipated. These are going to be a special group as well. Now, like I said, these are the Athearn Genesis units, and let's delve into these a little bit. Let's go get a little background history on these guys. So in 1993, Amtrak placed an order with General Electric for 44 of these Genesis AMD 103s, P40 DC passenger locomotives. Now, they were designed to be short enough to fit in low-profile tunnels and had extra bracing installed in the nose for collisions. The sleek and modern design made the locomotive more aerodynamic than other models, which also made these more fuel efficient. They were all equipped with HEP, or head-end power, for providing power to the passenger cars. Now, by 2004, Amtrak started to retrofit their locomotives with bolt-on noses. In the event of a grade crossing accident, they could be easily replaced and put back into service. So let's take a look at the P40s that we have here tonight. There's a couple that we're going to be offering. Here's our first one. And for you guys that are doing the 1990s, this is squarely for you. So this is number 813 rather. This is pretty much how this locomotive appeared from 1992 to 1999. It's going to be in the as-built configuration. It's the Phase 3. It's the faded stripe scheme. This does have front strobe lights. Now, if you opt to get the Tsunami DCC equipped version, the strobes will actually activate when the horn is activated. Now, let's go back in time a little bit. When these were first introduced in 1992, they had strobes, not ditch lights. Later on, they were outfitted with ditch lights, and like the strobes before them, when the horns were activated, the ditch lights would go into an alternating pattern. For this locomotive here, we're offering it as it was from the factory from 1992 to 1999. It will have the flashing strobes activated when the horn is pressed. Now remember, that's only if you get the decoder sound version. DC versions won't have that capability. So the next one that we're offering, and these are, again, these are P40 DCs. Now, this scheme probably looks a little bit more familiar to you guys. In fact, that's what I got to see this past weekend. This is number 816. This is a paint scheme, 2010s on forward. This is called a later phase 5 repaint. It does feature the bolted nose. It has a revised headlight. And something that the P40 early had was some of them had Hostler windows. This one has that removed. Now, one thing I want to let you guys know, we've done a few upgrades on these since the first initial release 2 years ago. The emergency red light in the center of the windshield, you'll see it in the production. That is actually wired and ready to go. However, that's going to be for someone to complete the wiring on their own. So if you really want to have that emergency red light in the center of the windshield, you can connect it. If you don't use the Tsunami 2, maybe you use another brand of decoder, you'll have that ready to go. You can just plug that in, assign it, and it's ready to go. Now, moving forward a little bit, now we get into the P42s. Here's another paint scheme that I'm sure a lot of you guys remember and are familiar with. So let's talk a little bit about the P42s. By 1996, production of the P40 DC was replaced by the P42, which we see here. Amtrak took delivery of over 200 units and placed them in service to ultimately replace the aging and tired EMD F40s. You probably remember those if you're my age or older. They were all over the system. But by the 1990s, they were pretty tired. These were the perfect replacement for those. The horsepower was increased from 4,000 to 4,250. Many of the P40 DCs were upgraded to P42 DC standards by the late 2000s. So the first one we have here, this is number 8. This is the Phase 4 repaint. This would be from about 2000 to 2003. This is going to feature both large and small Sinclair antennas, the original style nose, and this run, as well as the 50th anniversary run that we announced back in August, I believe. Well, they're going to have lit number boards. Now, first run didn't have that. The windows have also been redesigned on this run as well as the 50th anniversary run to be more secure, fit much better, look much better than the first run that we did a few years back. Now, here's the one everybody's excited about. In fact, so excited, when you get done watching this, go on over to Train World. They've got a YouTube video, and we did a special YouTube event about an hour ago. And we met with the folks with Operation Lifesaver, and we met with Matt Donnelly, who's the marketing guy over at Amtrak. And we've been working with these guys on this particular unit for a while, and we're really excited about offering this locomotive. So obviously, this is number 203. This is the Operation Lifesaver locomotive. This is a 2022 new special edition. This paint, everything was designed in conjunction with Amtrak and Operation Lifesaver. And 203 just happened to be ready for a repaint. It was ready for a little refresh. And so they chose this one to do this really eye-catching paint scheme. And I have not seen it in the wild yet. I really hope by this summer I catch it trackside. It's going to be a fun train to chase. Now, it does bear repeating that while we rail fan, try to keep in mind what Operation Lifesaver is all about. If you see tracks, you know there's a train. Try to keep it safe out there, and also try to tell other people too to be safe. Unfortunately, we do have a society that likes to take pictures and selfies and things of that nature on tracks, and that's just not safe. So if you see somebody doing something unsafe, here's your opportunity and a reminder to avoid that area. So this is going to be a limited run, obviously. You only have until Friday the 27th to order the specific locomotive. I can tell you this is going to be a big selling locomotive. Now, we're offering it in both DC and DCC Tsunami 2 sound. And the beauty of working with both Operation Lifesaver and Amtrak is we had all the accurate markings. We worked with them closely on the paint and how everything is applied. So this is just a rendering of what the locomotive will look like, but you can guess that by the time these come into production next year, these are going to be very, very accurate. Now, if it wasn't enough to have an exciting P42 release, here's one that a lot of you guys have been waiting for, and I can see why. Now, VIA has a really strong fan base, and VIA, of course, has some P42s. We did a few things differently this time. Let's talk about them real quick. The first one that we've got here is part of the Love the Way scheme. Now, brief background on these. Starting back in 2017, VIA began to add wrap schemes for their P42 DC fleet. By 2019, the Love the Way in both English and French on either side was applied to a few select units, with each having a different version. So meaning one unit would have the English version on the left side, French on the right, and vice versa. So they weren't always all the same. In November of 2019, VIA also applied the Poppy scheme. It was a tribute to veterans to a small handful of units. So that was a nice touch to remember the veterans of foreign wars, and something that you'll see VIA and, of course, CP has done, as well as some other American railway companies. So the first one we got here, 908, this is Love the Way scheme. So it's going to have English on the left side that you see here and French on the right. We're also offering 911, which has the French on the opposite side. This has English on the right side, French on the left side. You remember me talking about the Poppy scheme, or the Veterans Unit? Well, we're also offering 916 in the Poppy scheme. So real eye-catching paint scheme, really neat stuff. These are going to be locomotives that you're going to want to pre-order. You're not going to want to just wait until they get into the hobby shop, because they're probably not going to last long. Now remember, the first run of P42s that we did about 2 years ago, they sold out quick. Same with the 50th anniversary locomotives. Those are going to be due here pretty soon. Unless you pre-ordered one of those, your chances of getting one are pretty slim. Now, we realize there's budgets for everybody, so that's why we're offering it with a DC ready, or DCC ready rather, or with the Tsunami 2 decoder. So if you want to run it in standard DC, you can, or if you want to add the decoder of your choice, you can. So we're trying to give you some options on all of the VIA and Amtrak units that we're showing to you tonight. And last but not least, you knew we were going to end up doing this. Back in 2015, VIA started to repaint their fleet of P42s and this really cool, vibrant teal green scheme. During this time, they had an extra bright front light added to the nose to help with visibility. And we've done that. We've included that with the Canadian units. That's something that we have not done. So we upgraded the tooling just for the Canadian versions. Some of the things that we're doing on these 2019 plus paint schemes: a newly tooled nose for VIA specific details. We're not just taking a regular Amtrak unit and painting it in VIA paint. We've gone the extra mile. We've actually retooled another nose specifically for VIA. There's also an alternate air dryer. That's per VIA prototype. VIA added extra nose headlight. That's something that's specific to VIA. And again, just like what we did with Amtrak and Operation Lifesaver, these are officially licensed, and the artwork and official paint colors, all of that's been signed off by VIA. So these are something that you guys have been asking for a very long time. We know how popular P42s are. We're really hoping that the P40 DCs are a nice added collection for you guys that are modeling into the 90s. And of course, you VIA guys, you've been very vocal in the last year. We're really happy to finally offer these models for you. Now, something else I want to let you know too. There's been some design changes in the packaging that we were working on. The packaging for the P40s and the P42s is being improved to reduce damage in transit. And we realize the P42s, they're really heavy locomotives. They can slide around pretty easily. And we did get some reports of some paint blemishes. And we don't want to have that happen on these specially painted locomotives. So to counteract that, we've kind of worked on our packaging. We've made it a little bit more secure. And that way, when it gets to your railroad, it's going to be in good shape. So there you have it. We have P42s for just about everybody, and we've got P40s for everybody. So it doesn't matter if you're modeling the 90s, the 2000s, or present day. It doesn't matter if you're a Canadian modeler or United States modeler. We've got you covered. We've got some great stuff here. And of course, yeah, I know you VIA guys have been waiting for these, so we're really excited about bringing these out, and we're really excited about the Operation Lifesaver, working with Amtrak and Operation Lifesaver to bring that to you guys. So with that, I got some time for some questions. Let me go ahead and prepare my screen so I can see your comments, and we will get started. Let's see who's joining us out here tonight. This is your time. Any questions you have about what we've talked about tonight, definitely go ahead and throw those up there on the screen. I will try to catch as many as I can. Cornell is really happy about the VIA. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. How are the Surfliner cars coming along? They are coming. They are working on them. I'm hoping to have some samples at some point. Let's see. Michael, I see same question on the Surfliners. Yeah, we're hoping to have something to you guys here in the next month or so. Let's see what else. I'm going to go back a little bit in case you guys had a question while I was showing the different pictures. Late Night says, hey, the P40s are nice. I'd love to see some Genesis F40 PH Chicago Metro units from the late 90s. I'd pick some up in a heartbeat. Well, there's a couple of things we can do there. We've got the product suggestion email that you can definitely send that in. I will let you know that there are some transportation companies, Metro is one of them. Licensing can be somewhat of a struggle, but that doesn't mean we're not always going to offer them. So if we get enough people that want that specific locomotive and that specific line, there's definitely a possibility. Let's see what else we've got. Lauren, I knew you would like this. We need more VIA. Yeah, you know what? Lauren has really made me get in touch with my my background. And growing up in New England, I saw a lot of CP. Current day, I get to ride Amtrak a lot. I need to go to Canada and ride some VIA because VIA has some of the coolest paint schemes. Let's see. Need some Genesis level passenger cars to pull with the Amtrak units. We hear you, Gregory. Don't worry. German Tanker says, can I pre-order at a hobby store? Absolutely. If you've got a hobby shop in your town or close by, give them a call, stop in and visit them. Ask them if they're an Athearn dealer. If they're an Athearn dealer, you can most definitely pre-order your locomotive. If you can't find, maybe you live in a rural part of the country and you don't have a local hobby shop, you can definitely find there's a lot of online retailers, both in the United States and Canada. They would be more than happy to pre-order those locomotives for you. And that way, when they come in next year, you'll be all set. Brad's got an interesting comment. He says, I like how you guys included the bits of blue paint under the silver, showing that these units were wrapped. not painted. Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, if you get a chance to go look at the Train World um, video that we shot earlier this afternoon or this evening, Matt Donnelly of Amtrak, he shared a time lapse video of the Operation Lifesaver unit number 203 getting painted. And it's really cool because there's a lot of masking involved, there's a lot of painting, and of course, there's a lot of vinyl that's applied as well. So, anytime we can do that, we try to replicate that. And we're fortunate enough to have some really great resources on something that's being built or being painted right now. It's actually out there. So we can get all that information and translate it to a great model for you guys. All right, let's go down here a little bit. And I see some of you guys asking questions for new products or retool products. Those are great ideas, but remember, use the Athearn product suggestion email. Doesn't mean you're always going to get an answer. That is where we get all of our information from you guys. And when you see the new releases, well, that's where they come from, is our product suggestion emails. Sid, not yet, but give it a little bit of time. I'm sure we'll get some pictures of that real quick. Fortunately, we've got guys on the West Coast, and we've got myself here in Central Illinois. So between the group of Athearn, I'm sure we'll get a picture of those for you here in probably a month or so. Will the P42 have flashing ditch lights? So if you have the Tsunami 2 decoder equipped version, yes. When you select the horn, the ditch lights will alternately flash. If you get the DC version, no, it's just going to be straight lights. You can put your own decoder in it and set it up that way. But short answer is yes if you get the Tsunami 2. Eric wants to know, any chance at 822 and 145 and Phase 3 Heritage in another run? It's a possibility. The nice thing about P42s is there's so many of them out there. I just spent a week riding the city of New Orleans and coming back, and both times they were P42s. So there's plenty of those out there. Now, that being said, the old rail fan thing you need to do is they are going to slowly get replaced. It's hard to believe some of these locomotives are well over 25 years old. Get your pictures now, because it sometimes seems like overnight they disappear. That's how it felt with the F40s. So this is an interesting question from Are You a Train Man Too? Hey, Jim, do you know which trains these units pulled? I need a unit for the Coast Starlet Amtrak in 1995. So interesting question. And depending on the locomotive, and depending, of course, the era, can depend on where it was and what train it pulled. Now, take, for example, the Operation Lifesaver. The way it's set up, it could be pulling the city of New Orleans next week. Just this past day or two, it was on the Empire Builder. So the way it's set up with its antenna array and its system setup, it can go anywhere. Now that can change too, so it does require a little bit of research. But what I would encourage you to do is there's some great Amtrak websites out there where you can get that kind of information, and there's also some books on Amtrak too that go all the way up into the 90s, and you can probably get some ideas there as well. But that's a good question. Let's see what other questions we have. Brad wants to know, can we get some nice high-res artwork of the new CP ES44 ACs just announced? I'll probably get one, but it'd be nice to get a good look at them first. Typically what we do, Eric, is we'll announce with the artwork like you see tonight on Train Tuesday. As we get closer, sometimes it's as close as 6 months, sometimes it's a little bit longer, 8 months. we get samples. And if the samples pass our inspection, we'll get pictures of them. Now, they're not always going to be high res because depending on where the locomotive is, sometimes it's one of our product developers and they'll get a picture with a cell phone. We do that basically because we want to show you what we're working on. Later on down the road, usually about 6 to 8 weeks before the locomotives are actually going to be in stock at dealers, we start taking the high res pictures that you see on our Facebook and other social media. So you might have to wait just a little bit longer for those. Let's see. I see a question from Highball Productions. He says, hey, are you going to do the Every Child Matters unit? I'm confused. And what he's talking about is we had a little bit of a mix up here at the office. Some artwork went out that was not the correct unit that we're going to be doing. We're not going to be doing the Every Child Matters locomotive. We're going to be doing the Hapang Lloyd special CP locomotive in its place. Now, as soon as we get some updated artwork, we're going to start putting that up on our social media feed as well as a future Train Tuesday. But no, we won't be doing the Every Child Matters, at least in this run. I got time for maybe one or two questions, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to some modeling. Let's see. Ron's got a interesting point. Did you know that the P40s were often called ugly ducklings by model railroaders and train fans? Yeah, I remember the first time I saw one in Springfield, Massachusetts, and that's what I thought. I also thought it looked like a Ford Aerostar minivan, which was common at that point. Yeah, they were different. When you were used to rail fanning and seeing the F40s, they were totally different. And now, when you think of Amtrak, that's what you think. I've got one from the first release behind me. It's they were kind of ugly, but they grew on you. Ted wants to know how the shipping on the SD70 Aces are coming along. We are experiencing some shipping delays, and I apologize for that. We're seeing some shipping delays that are somewhat unprecedented from what we've seen in the past. So bear with us. We're trying to get those to you guys. We appreciate your patience. Hopefully, we'll see those by mid-May. Let's see. One more question. So Matt, it's not really a question, it's kind of a point of information. The nose for the P40s and P42s went through a lot of concepts. They're originally going to look more European at one point. Yeah, and the other thing too to remember is originally they weren't bolt-on noses. Unfortunately, there were some grade crossing accidents and replacing it got to be labor intensive. Now with the bolt-on nose covers, it's a little bit easier to replace the front end should there be a mishap of some kind. So another gentle reminder there to Operation Lifesaver. So definitely check that out. All right, and Rory wants to know, how was the train trip? Well, you know what? Traveling by Amtrak, if you haven't done it, I highly suggest you do it. Now, one of the great things about traveling by rail is you see a part of the country you just don't see by airplane or even car or bus. You get to see really all kinds of different parts of the country. And if you're a modeler, there's so many ideas that you can get. In fact, on my trip, I started a little notepad on my cell phone, started jotting notes of different towns that had really cool industrial areas or places that could be modeled in HO or N scale. So I highly suggest if you've never done it, go ahead and try it. Now for myself, I went on the city of New Orleans. I went from Champaign, Illinois to New Orleans. I took a sleeper car, which meant basically I had a private room. I had a sleeping berth, and I had a dining car. And you get to have real food. You don't have to worry about stopping and getting fast food somewhere that's so bad for you. Amtrak actually has a really good menu on most services. And again, you get to meet nice people that are into the same thing that you are, traveling by rail. It's a really great way to see the country. So if you've not done it, highly suggest it. If you do enjoy it, keep on rail fanning. It's a lot of fun. All right, and with that, we are done for Train Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed this. Now, we've got a lot going on this month. Be sure to keep watch. We're going to have a special Athearn Extra. We'll be talking more in depth about the P40 DCs and the P42 DCs, as well as other things. Everything that we talked about tonight is available for pre-order until Friday, May 27th. So see your dealer before then to pre-order either the P40 DCs or the P42 DCs or anything that's in the May announcements. I will talk to you guys again next Tuesday for a new Train Tuesday. Until next time, everybody, do some modeling, be happy, and above all, high greens. Take care, everybody.